Lesson 8.5 is a lesson that is based on observation. Many students assume that everything in algebra requires a high level of focus and skill. Hopefully you're learning that many processes only ask for a low level of energy, because that's true. Yesterday's slope work took multiple steps to find the answer, but again, each step was pretty basic. First, you had to substitute the values into y2 and y1, x2 and x1. Second thing you did was you simplified, you subtracted this and subtracted that. And the last thing you did is just divided, because you ended up with a fraction. So even our solving problems required basic level steps, which is if you saw it being added, then you subtract. If you saw it being subtracted, then you add. If you saw it being multiplied, divide. If you saw it being divided, you multiplied. I will admit, again, some of the problems can get more complex, but typically the actual steps that you take are very simple. Our job is to master the small things so we can execute each step without making silly mistakes. So today's work is a mix of observation and vocabulary. And what I say by vocabulary is you want to make sure you understand what the words mean. In this case, once you understand what the words mean, you'll actually understand what you're looking for, even if you haven't seen it for a while. So the word intercept can be replaced with the word intersect, because it's the same thing. It represents a location where two things touch. So we have seen the Cartesian plane before, which is what this whole thing is called. We know that this is a y-axis because it's labeled with y. We know that this is our x-axis because it's labeled with x. So again, your x-axis and your y-axis. Notice again how the two main lines are labeled with x and y. And again, that's officially called your x-axis and your y-axis. So if we put those two things together, if somebody asks you for the y-intercept, it wants to know where wherever the line you're talking about touches, which means intersects the y-axis. Y-intercept, again, crosses the y-axis. And so it's easier to show you than to tell you. So let's just look at some problems. And again, you'll see that this is honestly a great way to end the year, because it really isn't that bad. So if they ask you what's the y-intercept of the graph below, you look at the line here. You look at your y-intercept and see where it crosses, and notice that it crosses right here at y equals 1. That's it. Y-axis is at 1. That's all. If they ask you for the y-intercept on this, you look at in the y-axis to see where the graph crosses. It touches here, which is at y equals 4, or just 4, depending on what MathXL wants. But that is all. This is not a tough topic. You just have to make sure you understand what it's asking you. If they ask you for the y-intercept here, again, you look at the y-axis, which is what you're looking for, and see where it touches, which is here, which means it's at y equals -4. Looking at this one, the y-axis, scan it, looking for where it touches, which is here, which is at y equals 2. And then the last one, which honestly is the last thing for this lesson, is again y-axis, y-intercept. Scan the y-axis, looking for where it touches, which is at y equals -1, because remember that's going to be -1 from your x. So just continue to practice the small steps of your homework so you can make the most of the upcoming test. Remember that this test is going to solidify you to a good position, or if you don't prepare right, it could possibly pull you down to a bad spot. So just make sure you take this seriously, and again, ask for help if you need it. Outside of that, I'll talk to you later, and good luck.